I would like to call to order the Charter Township of Chesterfield regular township board meeting for Tuesday, February 10th, 2026 at 7 p.m. to order. Could we all please stand, face the flag, and recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Berry, would you call the roll?
Supervisor Kersten.
Here.
Treasurer Elliott.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee Hornberger. Here. Trustee Vosberg. Here. Clerk Berry is here.
Item 4, the approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Clerk Berry. Their support?
Support.
Trustee Joseph. Have discussion? I have a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Joseph, to approve the agenda as presented. If you would please cast your votes, the results will appear once all votes are cast. Item passes 7-0. Item 5, presentations. We had 2 presentations scheduled tonight. There will only be one. Item B, Mr. Adair could not make it tonight, so that will be moved to next week's or 2 weeks meeting. And I did send you an email if you would review any comments in his presentation. If you would reply back to him, I'd appreciate it. Item 5A, we have Medstar Annual Report presented by Medstar President, CEO, World Traveler, CEO Kolby Miller. Kolby, the mic is yours.
Is it on? Very good. Karen's getting me hooked up with a clicker here. I'll say as we get ready to start the report, we've expanded our community reports, our annual report, so there's a lot of data in the report that I'm going to give you. I'm not a terribly formal presenter, so if there's a question that comes up during it, just stop me and I'll do my best to fill it in. Thank you, Karen. So from an organizational perspective, 2025 saw Medstar respond to 93,000 911 responses. That's throughout our service area. We serve 11 counties. Transported 66,000 patients from the 911 system. The cancellation rate is always a discussion with our community partners. We are canceled on the way to a call. We are canceled by other responders who arrive on the scene and say, we don't need you. And we're canceled when we arrive on scene and the patient changes their mind or doesn't have a medical condition that needs to go to the hospital. Of the 911 patients that we respond to, 4.2% are transported emergency status. So we have to remember, when we think about our 911 systems, we always think about everybody who dials 911 is in this life-threatening emergency situation. And when we see the ambulance go ripping by, we always think they're always life-threatening emergencies. Nationally, 5% of the calls we respond to, from a national data set, now that we finally have one, 5% of the calls we respond to are true clinical emergencies, time-sensitive emergencies, and about half of them actually have a condition where the timeliness of the clinical care impacts the patient outcome. So when you think about the scale of 911 responses, all the way down to the actual number of patients that receive time-sensitive care, it's far smaller than we used to think. And as we build our EMS systems, and we'll talk about that in a bit, as we build our EMS systems, we have to calibrate the risk of the emergency response around the outcome of the patient too. Average response time system-wide, 5.7 minutes, and throughout our system, we request mutual aid about 2% of the time. Karen, you'll just have to move me along because, there we go. In 2005, we held our third municipal conference on EMS system design. We invited elected officials, healthcare leaders, public safety leaders from around the state, came to Detroit. We invited national presenters from around the country to come in and talk about EMS system design. When we started it, we had 40 people there. I will say that I think Brad and Mr. Joseph were there our first year. The second year, we had about 60 people. The third year, we had 116 people come from around the state to learn about how we should be designing and developing our EMS systems in the state. The 2026 conference is yet to be scheduled, but we continue to do good work on a statewide basis and locally about making sure that we're designing our systems with patient outcome at the center, and then working on risk and safety as the components of our delivery. In 2026, Medstar became the first agency in the state, and I think Chesterfield has followed suit now, putting the Haas alert devices on the ambulances. We were the first EMS agency in Michigan to put them on the ambulance. So if you have Waze, the Waze app, or if you have a new Chrysler vehicle, there's a few other brands that have it. When our lights and siren are activated on the ambulance, it will light up on the app and say that there's an emergency vehicle in the area. It monitors the data that it gets back from the receiving things, and the average speed drops by 11%. When the other drivers are alerted that there's an emergency vehicle in the area, average speed drops by 11%. We can't tie it directly, but we will tell you that in 2025, our vehicle incidents dropped by 21%. So the number of incidents between a Medstar ambulance and another vehicle went down by 20% the same year that we instituted the Haas alert system. During the year, and you'll see it in the very bottom of the slide, and of course you'll get a PDF afterwards, our ambulances notified 147,000 vehicles that they were in the area of an emergency response. So it's a very effective solution. Anything we can do to improve the response safety is something that we're willing to invest in. Go ahead, Karen. We continued to run our EMT and paramedic programs. We have an EMT program 3 running in our Clinton Township location right now, 2 running at our Detroit station, and a paramedic program running at our Flint station, and as well as 1 here in Macomb County. Continuing to grow the workforce, 23 new paramedics and 54 new EMTs, the only accredited EMS agency in the county with a paramedic program. Go ahead, Karen. As we focus on the care that we deliver rather than the racing to the scene, we get granular into the bundles of care that we provide. We look at stroke as a significant event. We look at cardiac arrest. We look at the national data. The national data has EMS agencies reporting their stroke data to the hospital before they arrive at about 73% of the time. Medstar data locally here in Macomb County is 99%. And on cardiac arrest survival or cardiac arrest return of spontaneous circulation, I apologize for the abbreviation there. This is a pulse that returns on a cardiac arrest patient prior to arrival at the hospital. The national average is 24%. I apologize, I had eye surgery and I can see Texas from here. I just can't see a foot in front of me now. The national average is 25%, the Michigan average is 27%, and the Medstar average is 35%. So the cardiac arrest work that we do with our crews, the equipment, the first response partners that we have, all leading to benchmark performance that is above the national standard. We were, and this is a matter of personal pride for me, in December of 2025, after 2.5 years of trying to get everything together and doing all the background work, Medstar became the first organization in Southeast Michigan to carry whole blood on EMS vehicles. A strong partnership with Chesterfield. Our first blood drive to support the program was here in Chesterfield. And we partnered with Versity Blood Solutions, who is one of the national blood suppliers, but the only one that ensures that blood that we collect locally stays local. So when you donate at the blood drive, and there's another one coming here in the township soon, our blood collection efforts retain blood in Southeast Michigan. I can't promise bag to bag that every unit collected in Chesterfield stays in Chesterfield, but we chose our partner because of their commitment to keeping blood local. When we think about whole blood on the ambulance, our natural reaction is shootings and stabbings and motor vehicle trauma, but don't forget about maternal trauma or maternal death, maternal birth bleeding, and then geriatric abdominal bleeding. Those patients, when I became a paramedic in 1987, please skip the math, we used to start large bore IVs of normal saline and lactated ringers, and we show up at the hospital with 2 giant bags of IV solution running through 2 giant needles, and we would tell the hospitals we've done a great job by starting these big bags of fluid on these trauma patients. And then we couldn't figure out why all the trauma patients bled out, because we're putting normal saline into them as a fluid builder. Whole blood carries oxygen, and whole blood carries clotting mechanism for the patients who's actively bleeding, starting that whole blood in the field. The hospital takes about 30 minutes to get a bag of blood into the ED. If we show up with a bag of blood from a 10-minute scene time, we've reduced their time to receiving clot mechanism by 40 minutes. A very small number of patients, but a very big impact. So we're very happy to roll that out. The blood is carried in our supervisor vehicle. You'll see it running around town a little bit more now. The cooler in the back, 6-second temperature monitoring. The blood expires every 21 days. No increase in reimbursement for it, but it's the right thing to do. We invested about $40,000, and currently we're buying every unit of blood ourselves. We don't have a hospital exchange program yet, but just know that if there's a patient in Chesterfield Township who needs that type of service, they will receive it from Medstar. And so far, it's us, one program in Saginaw, and one program in the UP delivering whole blood in Michigan. So still a very small number of EMS agencies. Patient satisfaction continues strong. The overall satisfaction score for the organization is 97.4%. We'll look at the Chesterfield number individually in just a minute. Several of you have supported us in our Shock and Save initiative, where we raise money so that we can contribute CPR training and AEDs in the community. $40,000 raised this year at the golf outing. That means we'll match it for another $40,000. We'll put $80,000 worth of AEDs and CPR trainings into the communities that we serve. Again, matching the investment of our time and effort into the clinical outcome things that matter, getting the CPR and the AED use and the Shock and Save and the bleeding control stuff out there helps provide a viable patient for EMS responders when they get on scene. Invested in a new dispatch system, working to better categorize our calls so that we can better respond, calibrate the right vehicle for the right call and the right response, ultimately leading to the better outcome for the patient. When we think about not sending a paramedic unit to every call, we think, oh no, it could be, what if? But if we think about not sending a paramedic to a sprained ankle, what we're ultimately doing is making the paramedic unit available for the cardiac arrest when it comes in. So calibrating the system around what vehicle goes to what call and how they respond ultimately leads to better service for the relatively small number of patients who need that critical care. And then we move into the Chesterfield data for the year. The top 15 call reasons, for those of you who've seen this report every year, it looks just about the same every year. But the leading 911 call is sick person. Falls, psychiatric population is on the rise. The psychiatric use of EMS on the rise. Difficulty breathing, traffic crashes, chest pain. A lot of the unknown lift assist made it onto the top 15 for the first time this year. So we have an increase in facilities and families who just don't have a way to put somebody either back in bed or back in their chair. We are struggling with some of the facilities in our service area that are using us to do the work for them so they don't have to. Some of your neighboring communities are passing ordinances to help prevent that, but when they call 911 and say, we need you to come help put somebody back in bed, we have to go. In the communities that have said, you're not going to do that anymore, you're not going to call us to put people back in bed, we're going to charge you. Now they call and they say they've fallen out of bed and they might have hurt their back. So we're working to come up with the best way to use our resources for those types of responses. We're going to look at some options a little bit later. But from an overall utilization perspective, the call types are pretty consistent with year over year. The good news is, through the partnership between the Chesterfield Police Dispatch and our dispatch center, we've reduced the 911 calls in Chesterfield Township to where now a majority of them are responded to without lights and siren. This is pretty significant progress. The number has moved year over year, a little bit more and a little bit more. I will tell you that Chesterfield Township, because of the relationship with the dispatch center, this is the best percentage that we have in our Macomb County service area. Your neighboring Macomb County, we gave the similar report a couple of weeks ago, Macomb Township, they're right at 50-50, and we're a little bit better here in Chesterfield Township by reducing those responses, and that really does help the system work better and get the right resource to the right patient at the right time. On the response outcome, you can see that about 25% of the patients we respond to don't go to the hospital. Another 10-15% are canceled for one reason or another along the way. We had about 60 mutual aid requests where either our ambulance in the township or two ambulances in the township were already on a call, or we were repositioning ambulances and we decided that our mutual aid partners would be better to respond. The vast majority of the patients are transported non-emergency, and a very small number, 325 out of about 5,800, are transported emergency status to the hospital. Although the response time impact on patient outcome has been nationally discredited as a driver of patient outcome now, We continue to report it because it continues to be in our contract as a measurable metric. Here in the township, the average response time was 5.04 minutes for an emergency response. Fractile compliance is about 94% on a 90% contract. And you can see the count. This is a count of graph that shows how many emergency responses were at what minute of response. And you can see that the 6 is the highest there. They drop down. There's some elongated responses in here for sure. Some of those are weather. Some of those are multiple vehicles on the scene. But don't forget, when we talk about ALS response, there's a first responder unit on the scene. So this is not a patient waiting for priority 1 ambulance for that amount of time. If we move to non-emergency, it looks the same. The response elongates out to about 8 minutes. When we talk about non-emergency, somebody called 911 and said, I'm a sick person. My ankle hurt. I fell. I don't think I'm hurt, but I fell, or somebody fell. Send an ambulance. If they don't answer the critical questions with an affirmative in some of these national categories, the closest ambulance, ALS or BLS, still responds, but they're not running lights and siren. So it adds about 3 minutes to the average response. But again, when we look at the way that the transport disposition works out, we know the vast majority of our patients are well cared for and are transported non-emergency. In Chesterfield Township, you contract for first response service. The emergency response average for your first responder is 4 3/4 minutes. And the non-emergency response, the Chesterfield Tango does go on non-emergency responses, and they have about a 7.5-minute response. Patient satisfaction in Chesterfield Township, 96.77% top box satisfaction. If there's data nerds in the room, top box satisfaction is all positive responses. So good, very good, and good, very good, and exceptional roll up into top box satisfaction. We did have 3 complaints during the year that we received either through calls or through the patient satisfaction survey. We did, as occasionally happens, hit a coffee table with a stretcher, caused damage to the table. We paid to fix it. We had a patient who was mad at us about the way their insurance company handled the ambulance bill, generating a copay. Essentially, it's a dispute between them and their insurance company, but it came to us. And then one dispute about a patient who did not want to go to the closer hospital that we insisted they go to because of their condition. They had to go by protocol. And as it worked out, the patient outcome was a positive outcome, and the decision of the paramedics was the right decision at the time. I'm going to move quick. Feel free to stop me. We're going to continue to work on patient outcomes. We're going to continue to work on the response, the provider, the patient, and the public safety. We're going to continue to grow the workforce, and we're going to continue to invest in community programs that benefit the communities that we serve. 2 things that you'll see in the coming year is the knock and check program, 3 years in the making, for elderly, at-risk, frequent callers, enrolled by their family, enrolled by their physician, residents who live in Chesterfield Township. By the end of the first quarter, they'll be able to sign up on our website, and they'll get a community paramedic visit once a month to their house, checking their medications, checking fall risk, checking home safety things, doing a set of vitals, making a record, and then with a quarterly or monthly visit, being able to tell their family member, hey, something's changing here, you might need to get them into their primary care doc, something's going on, or sometimes you might need to go to the hospital right now. Expanding the use of the community paramedic program to prevent 911 calls before they happen is a great idea. And then our second initiative, we're going to expand on our CPR and AED training. We're now going to offer a community responder training. Churches, schools, civic centers, units of government, any not-for-profit gathering place will come in and teach for free AED, CPR, Narcan use, and stop the bleed training for our public gathering places. We will continue the conversation with our elected officials about system design. EMS, quality EMS is expensive. There's a high degree of risk, and it's important that we continue to work on getting the right resource to the right patient at the right time. That continues to be our effort in 2026. And with that, I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. First, Kolby, thank you. I just had one question, and the knock and check program. When Trustee Anderson and I are on our Public Safety Committee, and we meet regularly with Director Bassett and Fire Chief Miller. One of the things that we were kind of explained on the knock and check, when you have your patients, our residents that you know are familiar with because of multiple runs, and your people get there and you see things that maybe are contributing to frequent calls, frequent emergency situations, your knock and check program is kind of designed to engage with the family in a non-emergency situation and identify some areas where emergency calls, it in essence is a prevention program, and it also enables you to become more familiar with, and in certain situations where you have very difficult, I don't know what the terminology, but the extraction and getting your equipment in and out to familiarize yourself with a tricky location where somebody has outside of the ordinary special needs. There's a multitude of really very smart and proactive things associated with that. Will that require like additional staff, or are these your paramedics that are going out and participating in the knock and check?
Let me make sure I have the microphone right here. So these are our community paramedics. It's not additional staff that will be, it's not the first responders or anybody like that. It's staff that we're going to put into our emergency system, just as our investment into the system, knowing that response and transport is one thing, and that's the core of our business, obviously. But interacting with the patients that we serve and the communities that we serve by investing at our expense somebody to help on the prevention side of our industry or our care delivery is a wise investment for us. To your point, though, when paramedics are in somebody's house, or the EMTs are in somebody's house, or the firefighters or law enforcement, and says, here's the problem, the cat keeps getting tangled up over the phone cord and somebody trips. Those paramedics can say, we were at this gentleman's house last night, we can enroll somebody in our program ourselves. And the community paramedic calls the next day and says, Mr. Kersten, we're thinking about enrolling you in the community paramedic program. Can we come out to your house and do a wellness check and do a visit? Or we say, you called 911 16 times this month. We'd like to come out to the house and see if there's something we can do. Or your family lives out of town and they say, you know, we're worried about our dad and we'd like somebody to come by and check once a month just to make sure he's taking his meds, just to make sure that he's getting to his doctor's appointment, and just to make sure that there's not a developing medical condition. By having that regular visit, we think we can prevent, you know, when you look at the 911 calls, even the 911 calls that result in critical care transports, some of these were trains that got on the tracks a couple of weeks ago. And had somebody been able to engage in the patient's health care, we would have been able to stop some of these things. The frequent 911 callers, sometimes there's other social drivers that we can engage with. Access to transportation is a big one. Access to medication is another one. Don't know which doctor to call. There's a lot of things that we can engage with, and the national model is really developing around this, public and private, to engage with the 911 system to prevent that call before it happens.
Another innovative and really kudos to you and your team. I wanted to touch on a couple of things just real quick, not so much questions, just comments. One, I have a multitude of reasons why I have deep appreciation and respect for you and Medstar. Just touching on a few. During COVID, your Medstar team was responsible for the pop-up labs or pop-up clinics, if you will, that were providing monoclonal antibodies, which were life-saving intravenous treatments that hospitals could not really staff at that time. They were all hands on deck treating the effects of the pandemic. Your people were working all over the region to take makeshift medical centers that you could convert to individual treatment where people could go in and get the IV treatments. And I don't know how many lives you saved there. The community support that Medstar pours into the communities you serve are really spectacular. You are, or your organization is at every single township event that I can think of. Our Friends of Chesterfield Police, our cruises, our Parks and Rec, you name it, Medstar is there. Your work in the response time debate, if you will, for as long as I've paid any attention to ambulance, fire, police, dispatch related, response time is the driver of everything, except that you were the first person that I kind of came in contact with that said, like, response time is one element in the big picture. And the big picture is like, let's measure what we do with the patient that we're treating. Let's see what the outcome is, and that should drive our decision making. So while response time, the rest of the world is chasing response time and doing everything that they can to get lights and sirens, which you identified as a risky procedure and should be utilized when as limited as possible. And then you have become really a national spokesperson on some of these other techniques which are improving patient outcomes without abandoning, and because you can't. You'll be crucified if you said, look, I'm not concerned about response time. I'm concerned about, does my patient leave the hospital and how quickly and when. And so looking at techniques that advance outcomes in a positive way for patients is where you've gone, whether it's making sure that you have proper blood, proper training for your personnel. You've been ahead of the curve on all levels. The other thing that I wanted to say thank you for is our township struggled with how to meet the needs of our residents in terms of ambulance service. And in a lot of communities that you work in, there's an adverse or an adversarial relationship between Medstar and firefighters. Firefighter personnel who believe that they will handle ambulances and they see you potentially as a threat to their, we had that sort of brewing here many years ago. And when Medstar came in, you came in as a partner. We don't have an adverse relationship with our firefighters and our police department, and Medstar is the third leg of the stool when it comes to our public safety team, and that is a testament to your leadership. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank you on a personal level. Many people who know me that know my relationship with Badge 55, Dylan Riker, who was diagnosed with cancer as a young boy at 9. He has been on chemo basically since the age of 9, and he's struggled throughout the years. And when he turned 16 in the middle of COVID and we couldn't really celebrate his life, it was then Director Kersten who put together with some really nice planning, all of our community partners, from Joe Baller to our trucks in our DPW to our police and fire, and we had over 150 cars that went past Dylan's house, and it was a Medstar helicopter that led that parade. He talks about it to this day. He's coming up on 22 years old this spring, and he tells me about this time every year we plan our Tigers opening day and his birthday, and he holds me to what are we going to do for my birthday better than the Medstar helicopter that flew over my house. It made a very, very big impression, and I thank you really from the bottom of my heart for all that you do in our township and for Dylan.
You know, I think that, and I'll be very quick, we see our relationships with our community partners as a partnership and not a vendor relationship. I've been at Medstar now for 22 years, and I've never seen our community relations as vendor and customer and provider. It's partnership. I'll also tell you that for Dylan's birthday, that is the lowest I've ever seen our helicopter fly on a follow parade. Remember, they ripped the balloons off the mailboxes that were along the street because they were so low. But they were happy to be there, and we were happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Trustee Gosford?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and thank you, Kolby, for your presentation and your service that your team provides to our community. I just have a question about, you had mentioned you will provide training for AED and CPR, whatever. How does an organization get in touch with you, or what do they have to do to be able to provide that service?
We're expanding two parts of our website right now. Obviously, they can call or email me directly, but we're expanding two parts of our website. We're expanding the knock and check program sign up. And as you might imagine, there's a HIPAA component that goes along with that that's making it a little slower than we had hoped. But then there's AED and CPR training. Click a button on there now. That will be, when the program goes live, that will switch to what kind of training would you like? Is it just CPR and AED, or would you like some of the community responder training? The organization goes on and signs up. Believe it or not, no matter how many times we put on there, you must be in the Medstar service area. We get people from all over the country, and then somebody contacts them and says, when do you meet? You know, when can we have somebody come out? Some churches and schools, it's a 5-ish hour program, so some places don't like to do it all in one setting. So we'll do it the first Wednesday of the month this month and the first Wednesday of the month next month, and everybody gets trained. But it'll be through web sign up, and there'll be social media stuff that goes out when we're ready to roll, but we're just about there.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Just nothing that hasn't already been said. Kolby, you are a recognized expert. I see you traveling everywhere, giving this similar presentation. Your management, your philosophy, your team fits our community, as you said, 97%. That's hard to achieve. Our public safety partnership with you is exactly that, a partnership. You're in constant contact, not only with me, but with the public safety director and the fire chief, and it serves our community very well. So again, a thank you to you and your staff. Every EMT out there, it's a tough job, but appreciate everything you've given us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Item 6, department reports. I'll start with Treasurer Elliott tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Treasury has collected over 90% of the taxes due. Taxes can be paid without penalty through Tuesday, the 17th, next week. A 1% penalty will be added to any unpaid taxes at that time for collection here at the township. And that collection will last through March 2nd at 5 p.m. On March 3rd, your taxes become delinquent, and they'll will only be payable at the county offices. Remember, our township offices will be closed this coming Monday, but payments can still be made online at any time. If you use the EFT check option when you're making water and sewer payments, or you're making tax payments, that is a way to avoid your credit card fees. Thank you.
Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We've been getting quite a few calls into the office the last week or so from voters who are getting unsolicited mailings, not from the Secretary of State, not from our office, but from third-party vendors who are being secured by candidates who will be running in the upcoming August primary, encouraging them to check with the clerk's office to make sure that they are on the permanent absentee ballot list. Again, there is a difference between the permanent absentee ballot list and the permanent absentee voter list, which we have had for many years. And so you can certainly call the clerk's office and we can confirm. So far, everyone who's called us has been on the permanent ballot list. We did an exhaustive program last year to convert as many of our folks that were on the permanent absentee voter list to the permanent ballot list. We did several direct mailings to them, directly to their homes, to the individual voters. And so we were able to convert the majority of those, but there are still some that remain. And so if you do get one of those mailings, please know it is not from the Secretary of State, nor is it from our office that we are aware of. It is from most likely third-party vendors. But you can certainly call the clerk's office. You can also check the Michigan Secretary of State website, the Michigan Voter Information Portal, MVIP, and then you can also get the information in terms of your registration status and your absentee ballot list status as well. Secondly, on the consent agenda is a receive and file of an attendance report as required by Administrative Procedure Order 05-2018, requiring the clerk to provide to the board on a biannual basis attendance for all boards and commission members. That is included in that for the board's consideration. There is no action that needs to be taken on that item. It is strictly in order to be in compliance with Administrative Procedure Order 05-2018. You will see that the only two boards or commissions that do not appear on that report are the Streets, Sidewalks, and Pathways Committee, as well as Public Safety Committee, because they do not publish agendas or minutes. Therefore, there is no attendance reported on those particular committees, but all other committees, commissions, and boards are available for your review. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Joseph, you have any?
Yeah.
Yep, all yours.
Just a couple of updates. I sit on the Parks and Rec and the Senior Advisory, if I can give brief updates on those. Both of those meetings, the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee met on 1/28, and our Senior Advisory Committee met actually last night. The bulk of both of those meetings were to provide the opportunity for Director Vanderson to discuss the issue involving our Parks and Rec millage, which we will discuss in length later on here tonight. The Parks and Rec meeting included a report from Director Vanderson regarding a America 250 grant program. There is an opportunity perhaps to look to replace pavilions, including the historic village. We're currently pursuing a grant for the Pollard Park playscape. The United Way grant that was just received is a game changer for us and involves our opportunity to expand our very, very popular summer camp program. And the other significant item from our Parks and Rec was the update regarding the Civic Rec software that our board approved. That will really enhance the ability to register for some of our more popular events sell out very, very quickly. And there's limitations on our current software system that this new addition will definitely help out. As I mentioned, our Senior Advisory Committee met last night. Continued great work over there. A lot of questions about programming for the seniors and working through some issues with everything from our bingo program to our summer parties. And there is talk of a summer concert hosted by the Senior Advisory Committee in June. They're looking at we unfortunately won't have our new stage just then, but there is plans for a band and a luncheon, and they had some very good feedback regarding our Parks and Rec millage, which we can talk about later. The other significant committee assignment was our Public Safety Advisory Committee, met on February 4th. It was a fairly lengthy in comparison to some of our other meetings, but the bulk of it we went through something that the board will hear more about at our next meeting in February, and that is the accreditation certification and the process that's being undertaken by our fire department. Inspector Rogers presented very detailed all of the requirements associated with securing our accreditation in our fire department. We will be, I think I'm biased, of course, but it puts us really very far ahead of the curve when it comes to comparing our department to neighboring accredited departments. There are we would be one of 5 accredited departments in the state and the very first accredited department in the county of Macomb. It is quite an undertaking, as you can imagine, and then those who were part of the police accreditation know, quite exhaustive in terms of the amount of energy that goes into those. DTE is working to address some of the minor issues with lights at the PD, but the renovation, is largely successful, and I encourage residents to come out and see how transformative the department is at our open house, which we are scheduling for May. There were a number of other issues involving grants received, and Director Bassett advised us that we have secured a $100,000 grant, which will send 5 cadets to the police academy. Lieutenant McPhillips is at the FBI Academy currently. We have 1 new cadet starting on 2/6. We've converted our part-time firefighter, Healy, from part-time to full-time. We have a number of command officers and firefighters that are scheduled to retire in the next year or two, so we're mindful of the need to sort of promote and make sure that our department is properly equipped. The open house, as I mentioned, is currently scheduled for 5/16. Planning is underway now. The 2025 annual report should be out next month or hopefully April 1st. The other significant issue is the capital improvement project and planning for the years 2027 through 2032. A 5-year plan is currently being reviewed and kind of tweaked, and so we will have a more formal presentation when that is put together. So a lot of really good information coming from the various committees, and appreciate Director Bassett laying it all out for us and keeping us completely engaged with what's going on in the public safety sector. So thank you.
Thank you. Nothing? I'll move on to item 7, public comments on agenda items only. There's a 3-minute time limit. The mic is open. Again, public comments on agenda items only. You can come to the podium and speak. If you would please state your name just so we can keep track. Not required.
Christopher Pierrick, 33862 Embassy. A couple items here. Agenda item C is to approve the Department of Public Safety's recommendation to purchase 5 vehicles for the police department and then 2 trucks for the fire department. The agenda item calls for 5 vehicles for police. However, it's described as 3 Ford Explorers and 1 Chevy Tahoe. That's 4 vehicles and then 2 trucks. So is it 6 vehicles, 5 vehicles, 7 vehicles? So just some clarification on that would be great. The other item is agenda item H is the approval of an addition to the August 2026 ballot for Parks and Rec. Is there a benefit for that going on the August ballot as opposed to the November ballot? What's the cost difference? Thank you.
Joe Catich, I live on Sutton. First, I want to thank Medstar for coming out and giving their, basically what they do. I've had use of your organization, probably 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years, and I appreciate you coming out. You one time came out and extracted my wife, took her to the hospital. I wasn't even around. She found a way to get you in the house, and I thank you very much for that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was item H, which is the proposal for the 1 mil for Parks and Recs. I passed out basically a sheet of paper, pretty condensed, but looking at what's going on this year in the way of taxes, and you're hitting this community, if you look at it, basically, you've got 2.7% coming from the state for this year. And on top of that, Kersten added, a mill for the assessor's office to certain people, not to everybody, to essentially fight the people that are fighting their assessments at the tax tribunal or the tax court. He's placing that burden on you, on us, not on you. Instead of taking money out of the budget and preparing for that, he's passing it on to you to help us in his fight to keep the taxes higher for certain people. That's going to cost us approximately 1.7 mil, I think, depending on how many people are assessed. There's also $3 or $4 million from the past water increase rates that were, I guess, just before or just after the holidays. It's not part of the assessment, but you pay a water bill, and it's increased. And I think it was increased unjustly. He didn't really provide the reason why or what we were paying for now and what happened to some of the money that was collected before that should have been used for what he wants to use this money for now. The bonds that he took out that we had no control over. We had a $5 million bond for this building that started out as a $1 million.
Thank you, sir. Your time's up. Got to be equal to all. Any other comments from the public?
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Ricketts at 53141 Bates Road, and I'm here regarding item F on your agenda. I'm not sure if you have received a copy of the petitions that a number of our residents in the area went out in the freezing cold trying to get signatures from people opposing the rezoning. The reasons for our opposition is possible groundwater contamination, increased traffic and/or accidents, noise pollution, light pollution, trash, along with decreased property values. The Planning Commission cited that one of the reasons it should be approved is the sale has been for sale, or the site has been for sale for 10 years with no suitable buyers or development. Well, when you list the property for $1 million, you're kind of limiting the buyers out there. It's unreasonable. Also, it was cited that Giffords-Webster's report details that the proposed rezoning is not likely to place a burden on nearby thoroughfares. Not likely does not mean will not. There's already an issue going eastbound on 24 Mile from Bates during the normal business hours. Another item cited was that there are no other available sites along 24 Mile Road that are zoned commercial, but there are plenty along Gratiot. Also, according to Giffords-Webster, the site appears to be able to meet most of the commercial development and dimensional standards. appears most. Currently, there's a home adjacent to this property and a home directly across from this subject property. Property north of the subject property is zoned as manufacturing 1. Property south of this property, not including the very corner, which is zoned commercial, is zoned manufacturing 2 also. My thinking is, shouldn't we just keep it all manufacturing along that strip? There's a reason we chose our home in that area, and that's 26 years now. We wanted to be away from subdivisions, and we wanted to live in a country and rural setting, but having urban conveniences nearby. Our immediate neighborhood would transform negatively, economically, and culturally. There was an immediate change to our neighborhood when traffic, trash, noise, crime.
I got to interrupt you, ma'am. Time's up. 3 minutes. Thank you.
Lisa Minter, I live in Mariners Point. I'm here tonight with some of the other seniors to ask you guys to put the millage on the August ballot and let the residents decide. I've had the opportunity to live in Chesterfield for over 30 years, and I have used Parks and Rec many times as I raised my late son. The programming and opportunities that he had were tremendous, and the memories that my husband and I have obtained from that are special. I'm here tonight as a senior. I participate in so many of the Parks and Rec programmings. We have exercise, education classes, trips, parties, and the list can go on. But that's just for the seniors. We've created a sense of community. We have formed so many friendships and looked out for each other because of it. We have over 500 seniors in our membership, but we have over 400 that are active, and it grows every day. It's not just for seniors, though. It's for the hundreds of families and children that live within the township. This is so valuable in attracting people to Chesterfield and help us grow, and also to provide what the residents are asking for. They participate in sports, camps, all kinds of things. The list can go on and on. Parks and Rec is invaluable. We have 7 parks that are absolutely wonderful and that allow the residents to enjoy the beauty and surrounding waters and the opportunities that provides. Just think about it. For example, the Bassmaster Tournament. What a great event, not just for the community, but for our surrounding areas. So in conclusion, I could go on about Parks and Rec. It's in my heart. But I ask you, the board, to approve this and send it to the voters. Just think, if we are great today with all that they offer and provide the residents, wow, the new millage, we can be exceptional. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further comments from the public?
Because we only get 3 minutes to talk, so I'd just like to get that little extra in there. My name is Janice Young. Item 10A, the media and external communications item. I'd like to know if this resolution would prevent board members from using the township logo on their tents and canopies. And I also look forward to seeing the disclaimer added to board members' social media posts and comments. Item 10H, the Parks and Rec millage. I know that it's coming tonight to the board to be put on the August ballot. I implore you to wait until the November ballot because we all know, and Trustee Hornberger pointed it out at the May 2025 board meeting, that it would look like the board was controlling the election outcome by having it in an off year. And I think it would look the same way if you had it in the primary versus the general, because more people vote in the general election than in the primary. You said, you can go back and look at the meeting. You said it could appear that way. You said it could look that way in an off year. You said it would look in an off year. So it would look that way. It would look that way in the primary as well. So I'm asking you to do it in the November election, not the August election. Clerk Barry can give us the facts on the number of voters, but there was only 9,000 people that voted in the primary in 2024. That's what was on the township website. 29,000 people voted in November. A huge difference. That's 20,000 more people voting. If you want a true representation of what people want in Parks and Rec, it needs to be on the November ballot, not the August ballot. And I know that there are some board members who believe that it should be done sooner so that the township can collect our money sooner. Well, lack of planning on your part doesn't make an emergency on our part. So the fact that you guys bought the Sugar Bush Elementary with our ARPA money, and now we're on the hook to fix it, that's not our problem. You guys created that problem, so you can wait a whole nother year if that's what needs to be done. But if you want a true representation of the voters of this township, it needs to be on the November ballot, not August. It's plain and simple. There is just nothing else to do with that. And I also moved to a township, not a city. I moved to a township for a reason. I didn't want high taxes. I didn't require a lot of amenities. That's why I didn't live in a city. I don't want to pay high taxes. I'm happy with what I have. I know this is not really an agenda item, but when is this screen going to be fixed? We paid millions of dollars for this renovation here, and we all have to turn our heads this way or that way to see a screen. So I'd like to know when that screen is going to be fixed so we can see what's actually going on at the board meetings. Yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks.
Nervous. Hello, my name is, good evening. My name is Charlene Mont. I'm here about item number H. I moved into Chesterfield with my family in the late 60s. I've been here a long time. I'm a member of the Senior Advisory Board, and I'm also the Vice President of Connecting with Friends. It's a senior group. It's an organization, and we put on parties and events for the seniors. I'd like to take a second to thank the board for the providing funds and donations from the CDBG for our senior group. It lowers the cost of our parties that we put on. It helps the seniors purchase tickets for our parties, so thank you for your donation to us. But today I'm here to ask the board to approve an addition to the August ballot for the voters to consider an increase in the funds for Parks Rec and the senior group. Chesterfield is growing really fast. I've seen it when I moved out here. We had a dirt road on Sugar Bush with horses up and down the road. That's how long I've been out here. 23-mile road was 2 lanes. So we have a growing community, but with the community, we need more out here. We need more. We have a wonderful Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services right now. But I feel it's important that the services keep up with the demands. I think that at this time, it would be nice to let the voters decide. I don't like taxes going up any more than anybody else. Who does? But I also don't want to live in a community where I just eat and sleep. I want to have a community where I can have things to do. Parks and Recreation is in the senior group is for all ages, not just for seniors. It's for everything, for everybody, for the children of all ages. But we need more money to keep it going. We can't just exist. We have to keep looking into the future. This is the book. If any of you don't know, this is full of things to do. If you want to pick up this book and look through it, there's so much advantage. This is your taxpayers. You pay for this. You pay for all of this. And just pick it up and look through it. There's so many advantages in this book for all ages. And I was at the last meeting. People were not happy with purchasing that stage for Brandenburg Park. Brandenburg Park is a beautiful park. So if you've never been there, the concerts are on Thursday. The entry fee for the concerts is free. The park is free. So
All right, I'm here to talk about how happy I am to see agenda item J. Nobody else has talked about it, but I sure hope this board understands that this proves the point that I have been harping on for the last 2 years. Clerk Barry said there wasn't enough space at the municipality to house early voting, hence why she needed Sugar Bush Elementary. The clerk's office couldn't be bothered or disrupted by 40 residents coming in and out of that building over 9 consecutive days during early voting in 2023. But had no problem operating without approval of Anchor Bay School's special needs school, formerly known as Sugar Bush Elementary, with no regard to the disruption it caused for families with disabilities like mine. Out of 47,000 residents in Chesterfield, you had 368 unvetted people in and out of that special needs school with the most vulnerable student population. And for what? For 40 people a day, give or take. 40 people, you've been trying to convince us that this building couldn't house early voting. It was unnecessary then, nor approved by the school board, but you already know that. It's nice to finally see that this beautiful refurbished building paid for us by us taxpayers for municipal services will actually be used by the clerk's office. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dave Bergowski. I live on Cotton Court. And I just here for that item H, I'd like the board to approve putting the millage on the election. I voted in every election since I've been here. I've been here for over 20-some years. I've gone down and voted on one item or multiple items. It doesn't make any difference to me. A big election or a little election, I managed to cast my vote. But I'd like you to put that past that, to put it on the ballot. I think that's important. Well, for 1,000 reasons. I see the kids at the daycare, not daycare, but the school, and I just think it's a marvelous program. Our Parks and Recs does an excellent job. And when I didn't use it, when I was working, I didn't pay much attention, but now I see it's a great advantage. And I think we got to move forward. If we don't put that on the ballot and we don't vote for it, we're just going to take a step backwards. Anyways, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Jean Kopp, and I'm in Autumn Woods. I am here again to ask the board to put the millage proposal on the August ballot. I've only been a resident in Chesterfield for about 10 years, but I take full advantage of all that you have to offer. I'm extremely busy with the senior activities. I'm there every day, but I see all the stuff that goes on there also for the kids in the neighborhood. Do I want to pay more taxes? No. But what we will get back for that and what the children and the young families growing in Chesterfield will get from this is most important. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Laura Chapman. I live on Lockwood Court, and I am here to comment on Agenda H, that I am in favor of it. I have children that are involved in Parks and Rec, and I can attest that I spend a lot of money and time taking them outside of the community to partake in either private or other city programs. I pay like the non-resident fee. So I am in favor of it being here. And I think that it being in the August election is better. I think there's voters that are a little bit more informed in the August election. So thank you.
Any more comments from the public? Bring it back up to the board here. Item 8, consent agenda. Clerk Berry.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of January 27th, 2026. B, approval of the payroll report for week ending January 28th, 2026. C, approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. And D, receive and file report from the Township Clerks Office. The Boards and Commissions semiannual report includes the first half of 2025 from January through June and the second half of 2025 from July through December 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Clerk Berry. Any support? Trustee Vosberg. Discussion. I have a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Vosberg. You-
There is a mistake in the boards and commissions report. I don't know if someone wants to go back in and recheck the calculations on some of the.
Clerk Berry, do you want to address that? Apparently there's mistakes in that report.
Which one? Which mistake?
The board.
We'll correct it.
Under the seniors, when you have attendance calculated, is it, senior advisory commission? So there are 5 meetings and one of the person missed one and so it says their attendance was 80% and then another person missed one and it says their attendance was 67%. That's the only one I found.
Okay, we'll make that correction.
I have a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve the consent agenda as presented, along with the clerk correcting the errors in item D. Additional conversation, discussion? If you would please cast your votes, all votes will appear once all votes are cast. Results will appear once all votes are cast. Motion passes 7-0. Item 9, public hearing. There are no public hearings scheduled tonight. Regular agenda, item 10A. Clerk Berry, would you read this home?
Item 10A is postponed from the January 13th, 2026 regular Township Board meeting. A recommendation to adopt APO 21-2026 Media and External Communications and adopt resolution number 2026-05 APO 21-2026 Media and External Communications effective, this is January 14th, 2026.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion that this is postponed until 3/24/26 meeting. In conversations with Mr. Siebert, he'd still like some time to do some legal research before the draft is brought back to the board. Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to postpone this, supported by Trustee Anderson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Anderson, to postpone this until March 24th meeting. If you would please cast your votes. Karen,
I don't think we can cast on this one.
Emmanuel?
Roll call.
Okay. Clerk Berry, would you call the roll?
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson. Trustee Joseph. Trustee Hornberger. Trustee Vosberg. Treasurer Elliott. Clerk Berry, aye.
Item passes 7-0. Item 10B.
Item 10B is to approve the recommendation of the Department of Public Safety to enter into a 5-year agreement with Medstar to provide ambulance services to Chesterfield Township for an annual service fee of $317,050 and to approve a budget amendment of $46,911.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Trustee, was that Vosberg? Trustee Vosberg, discussion? Seeing no discussion, Director Bassett, you want to address any of this or comments? It's pretty straightforward, right?
I think Mr. Miller probably did a much better job than I can do in describing the partnership that we have
with Medstar, but this has been an integral part of public safety here in Chesterfield. And I think, he highlighted something that I'm very impressed with is the knock and check or the community paramedic program, where, Medstar is not only looking at how can they do their core function, which is, transporting an ambulance, but also how can they prevent that service from even being needed? Because I think everybody can probably agree that the emergency room is the last place we want to be or the last place we want our loved ones to be. So there's anything that, public safety, the police department, fire department, our partners at Medstar can do to reduce that. I think that's certainly a great program, and I really compliment Medstar for doing that. With that, before you is a request to extend that partnership for 5 years. Discussion from the board? I agree most everything was said tonight. Great relationship with Medstar, and that can only get better. So I have a motion by trustee Joseph, supported by trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10B. If you would, please cast your votes. The results will appear once all votes are cast. Item passes 7-0. Item 10C.
Item 10C is to approve the Department of Public Safety's recommendation to purchase 5 vehicles for the police department, 3 Ford Explorers and 1 Chevrolet Tahoe, and, 5 vehicles for the police department and 2 trucks for the fire department as part of the annual vehicle replacement program, replacing aging fleet vehicles at a total cost of $521,362.33.
I would like, Mr. Supervisor, make a motion to approve agenda item C with the amendment to the language in the agenda item as was picked up by one of our speakers. I think there was a kind of a typo there. The packet very clearly articulates 4 vehicles, which would, I'm assuming, be the Ford Explorers. Those are the marked patrol vehicles. So the language would include 4 Ford Explorers and 1 Chevy Tahoe. To be clear, the 4 vehicles are the marked patrol, and the other is the administrative vehicle, along with 2 trucks. So I would just like the agenda item to include 4 Ford Explorers and 1 Chevy Tahoe, and the balance of the agenda item is accurate.
That's correct, and I apologize. That's for that error. What we were trying to specify was there is 5 total vehicles for the police department. 1 is an administrative Explorer. 4 are going to be patrol vehicles. 1 of those 4 is going to be a Tahoe, and then 3 of those vehicles are going to be a Ford, which we commonly call an Explorer, but they're actually called an Interceptor Explorer. So I apologize. That was should have been cleaned up, and thank you for noting that.
Just to make sure I'm understanding, I had the Tahoe as the administrative vehicle. It's not relevant. The Tahoe is part of the patrol.
Correct.
3 of the 4 Ford Explorer Interceptors are part of patrol, and the remaining Ford Explorer Interceptor is the admin vehicle.
So it's just a Ford. There'll be 1 Ford Explorer, which is the admin vehicle.
Okay?
And then there will be 4 patrol vehicles, or as you would call a police vehicle on the road.
Okay.
1 of those will be a Tahoe, and then 3 of those will be Ford Explorers / they're called Interceptors.
Excellent.
So I apologize for that typo. And
5 total in the PD.
Correct.
2 in the fire department.
Yes.
So, great. Thank you.
Any further discussion from the board? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Trustee Joseph and Trustee Anderson. Discussion? I have a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Trustee Anderson, to approve item 10C. If you would please cast your votes. Results will appear once all votes are cast. Item passes 7-0. Item 10D.
Item 10D is to approve a recommendation to award a contract in the amount of $11,999 to Chronicle Heritage for the Jefferson Pathway Phase 2 Archaeological Survey, and approve a budget amendment in the amount of $11,999.
Motion by trustee Vosberg. Support? Trustee Hornberger. Mr. Kosier, go ahead.
There we go. Sorry about that. This is an agenda item for the Jefferson Avenue Pathway Project, Phase 2. This one here will be to conduct the archaeological survey along the portion of the construction area in order to, this is a federal requirement in order to get the funds.
Questions from the board? I have a motion by trustee Vosberg, supported by trustee Hornberg, to approve item 10D. If you would please cast your vote. Results will appear once all votes are cast. Item passes 7-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 10E.
Item 10E is to approve the Planning Commission's recommendation to adopt ordinance number 207 to amend Chapter 76 zoning, Article 5, Site Standards, Section 5.4, Building Surface Materials and Alterations.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support? Support. Trustee Hornberger. Director Palin, you want to address us?
Thank you. This is a, this is a ordinance amendment that was brought forth by the Planning Commission last year. They formed a subcommittee to address this ordinance. Specifically, it was pretty vague. It currently reads that the buildings must be 90% brick or better as determined by the Planning Commission. So that did not give developers and builders a lot to go on. So they have clarified the language, changed it up a little bit, and then also there's a schedule of approved materials that are available in the township offices. So when someone comes in, they can reference that schedule. And if there is an item or a material that is not listed on there, that can go in front of the Planning Commission. And if they do approve that material, it gets added to the schedule automatically. So it should be a lot clearer for everyone to understand, a lot simpler to update it so we don't have to do a full ordinance amendment, and just smooth it out for not only the builders and developers, but also the staff in the township. So that I can answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Comments from the board?
Yeah, the brick or better was an ordinance that was passed because as the township began to grow, we had a number of wooden structures, and those were in our commercial districts, visible off Gratiot and, any of the main primary roads. Wood obviously deteriorates and requires constant maintenance, paint, stains, and if it's neglected, it look like shacks. So as the ordinance was trying to keep up with the times, and the Planning Commission back then, and we're going back a few decades now, instituted the brick or better. Obviously, that's paid dividends, but in this instance, the project that was coming forward was using a material that was superior to brick, far superior to brick. It had a life expectancy, and the finish was basically impervious to water. It did not fade. It did not require paint. Yet it didn't meet the narrow confines of we got a little bit hung up on the or better part because this was a product, and at a special meeting commissioned by the planning, the petitioner actually brought in samples. Their builder brought in samples and passed them out to the commissioners, and it really caused a light bulb to go off. And let's take a look at all of the materials that may be out there that are potentially better than brick, and let's name them in our ordinance. And I was glad to see that the specifics of what makes a product better than brick is articulated in the ordinance, and it was a lot of work. but there are some really state-of-the-art alternative building materials that really do create a very nice, aesthetically pleasing finished product. And I'm glad that our Planning Commission kind of caught up with the building materials and articulated that in the ordinance. Thank you.
Trustee Bosworth?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I just want to reiterate what Jonathan, one of the points he already brought up was it will just streamline things for applicants and our department. There are so many products that are very acceptable and desirable, and I'm grateful for the builders and developers to bringing them forward, and this will just make our place a better place, a desirable place for the applicants to want to build. Thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, and this isn't the only one. There are several that are being looked at across the board. This is going to be a continuing process to update, modernize as anything. So I'm supportive of this. Any further questions or discussion from the board? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Hornberger, to approve item 10E. If you would, please cast your vote. Results will appear once all votes are cast. Item passes 7-0. To item 10F.
Item 10F is to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve rezoning number 377 and adopt ordinance number 208. The request is to rezone 2.015 acres of property located at the northwest corner of 24 Mile Road and Gratiot Avenue from R1A, one family residential, and M1 light manufacturing to C3 general commercial, parcel ID number 0908476005.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Trustee Joseph?
Mr. Supervisor, if I may, could I ask the maker of the motion to include the reasons?
Jonathan's going to include it in his narrative.
Perfect.
Thank you. All yours, Jonathan.
Thank you. So yes, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this on December 2nd, and then they voted on it on January 6th. To recommend approval. One thing I want to note before I go into their motion for approval, if this were to be approved, it would still be subject to site plan and special land use standards and requirements. There was public comment made about that it appears that it could meet all the standards. That's because we don't have a site plan for the site, but it would have to meet all of our standards or it would not be able to be approved. So that would just be something that would happen at a future date. So as I stated, the Planning Commission is recommending approval. Their reasons for the recommendation were as follows. The master plan designates this parcel as mixed use. By definition, C3 zoning is intended to provide for a wide diversity of business activities, which are predominantly but not necessarily totally retail in character. The purpose and intent of the proposed C3 zoning therefore aligns with the master plan as mixed use and wide diversity accomplished a similar intention. The Giffords-Webster report dated 11/7/2025 documents well that the Sutherland Omeg drain runs through this site. Almost all of this site is covered by hydric soils. Municipal water and sanitary sewer with available capacity to serve this project exists in the area. As currently zoned, this site has been for sale for approximately 10 years with no suitable buyers or development. The proposed C3 general commercial zoning district would make all four corners of this intersection have the exact same C3 zoning designation. The Giffords-Webster report dated 11/7/2025 details that the proposed rezoning is not likely to place a burden on nearby thoroughfares. There are no other available sites along 24 Mile Road in the township that are currently zoned C3. According to Giffords-Webster, the site appears to be able to meet most of the C3 development dimensional standards. Specific building locations and how they are to be positioned will be contemplated under separate consideration by the township. This request for rezoning is the most appropriate way to address the proposed use, and there does not appear to be any changes in the area since the master plan was adopted in May of 2021. And granting this request will not result in the creation of an unplanned spot zone. As such, rezoning request is consistent with the master plan. By definition, mixed use and offering a wide diversity of business activities accomplishes similar intent. Rezoning request is a logical extension of the existing zoning district. This rezoning makes all four corners of this intersection the same with C3 zoning, and approving the request does not grant a special benefit to the property owner or developer, as all 10 requirements are met. And based on those reasons, the Planning Commission is recommending approval.
Mr. Supervisor, just checking with council.
Yep.
Would you like to amend the motion to just incorporate a recap of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if I could ask for continued support for an emotion, for my motion, which is amended to reflect that we consider the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve the zoning 377 and adopt ordinance number 208. The request is to rezone 2.015 acres of property located at the northwest corner of 24 Mile Road and Gratiot Avenue from R1A, one-family residential, and M1 lighting manufacturing to C3 general commercial, parcel ID 09-08-476-005 for the following reasons. The Planning Commission has indicated that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the master plan. It is aligned with the master plan as mixed use and wide diversity. It complies with the municipal water and sewer restrictions, that the property has been on sale for 10 years with no suitable buyers or development in its current zone, that the proposed C3 would create parity among the three remaining corners of the intersection. The proposed rezoning is not likely to place a burden on nearby thoroughfares. There are no other sites along 24 Mile Road in the township that are currently zoned C3. The site is meeting of the C3 development dimensional standards, that this request for rezoning is the most appropriate way to address the proposed use. There do not appear to be any changes in the area since the master plan was adopted in May of 2021. And lastly, granting this request will not result in the creation of an unplanned spot zone. I would ask for continued support.
Trustee Hornberger, do we continue support on it? Yes. Thank you very much. Discussion from the board? Counselor is satisfied?
I am.
Thank you. I have a motion by trustee Joseph, supported by trustee Hornberger, to approve item 10F. If you would please cast your votes. Results will appear once all votes are cast. Item passes 7-0. Item 10G.
Item 10G is to approve a recommendation to rent portable toilets for township parks in 2026 through Cormick Services in an amount not to exceed $19,870 and approve a budget amendment in the amount of $15,870.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support?
Support.
Trustee Vosberg? Ms. Yana?
We're just coming in front of the board today for our routine approval of portable toilets in our parks. I know it's not very exciting, but because of the amount that we do spend with one vendor, we do want to bring this in front of the board.
Thank you, ma'am. Discussion, questions from the board. Trustee Vosberg?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I support this. We need these. I was just curious why it requires a budget amendment and that the full amount wasn't included in the original budget.
I believe there was an oversight in not including all the other parks other than Brandenburg Park in this year's budget.
Okay. Did they get moved from a different cost center? Do you know?
I did not see them in this year's budget.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Further questions from the board? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10G. If you would please cast your vote. Results will appear once all votes are cast. Item passes 7-0. Item 10H.
Item 10H is approval of an addition to the August 2026 ballot of a Parks and Recreation millage proposal, asking voters to consider an amount not to exceed 1 mill levy for 10 years to fund parks, recreation, and senior services with an estimated revenue of $2.5 million in the first year.
Trustee Joseph, supported by Supervisor Kersten. Ms. Vanderson, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight presenting a request that's looking forward for Chesterfield Township. The Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services Department is proud of what we currently do today, but we want to look forward in Chesterfield and see what we need to grow and expand. This presentation will outline why a dedicated Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services millage is necessary and where residents can expect to see their tax dollars at work. I'll be going over similar topics that were covered last year, but it's important to me for the board and the public to understand as much information as we can possibly give at all times. So here it all is. As we have our department now, we operate with 5 full-time staff, part-time and seasonal staff. Back in 2019, we merged the Parks and Recreation Department and the Senior Center Department, so we now offer programs for all ages. We work closely with facilities and operations to maintain parks and facilities, as well as those capital projects that we do as well. Currently, our facilities are 8 developed parks, 5 undeveloped properties, 5 rentable park structures, 1 community center, and 9 sports fields, all at Pollard Park. This does not include the Veterans Community Pathway, which I consider an asset to our community as it is a public space, although technically Chesterfield Township does not own it, so I did not list it here. Our programming spans, as I said, to all ages. We do fitness, instructional classes, theater, camps, and clinics, summer camp, community events, and festivals at Brandenburg Park. The many are at capacity with waitlist as well, and enhancing the spaces in which we can host will have a large impact on the programs that we'll be able to bring forward and pursue in future years. The future for us requires enhanced programming, renovated aging facilities, expanding recreational spaces, and then in the future we will prepare for our master plan. So our current master plan goes through the end of year 2027. So in the year of 2027, we bring it back to our Parks and Recreation Commission and we begin planning forward. To have a sustainable funding source will have a profound impact on the growth that we are able to do. Heading into the why of it all, why we need a Parks and Recreation millage. We looked at several factors: community use of parks, recreation, and senior services, funding to sustain offerings and grow, the rate of increase of the need for parks, recreation, and park spaces, and current parks per capita comparatively. If you look at the national standard, we are well below what many parks across the country have, or many municipalities across the country have, as well as access. In the last 5 years, we've had several new single-family homes and senior living units I'm sure you've seen gone up. One item that Macomb County does not have, which is different than St. Clair County, Oakland County, and Wayne County, is actually a parks system. So with those, for instance, St. Clair County Parks provides physical spaces, facilities, and programming that's offered to all of their area residents. It does not come out of the municipal budget, it's actually out of the county budget. So that's something that here in Macomb County, we do not have to fall back on. All recreation responsibilities falls just to the municipalities. We've had our master plans for the last several years, since 2013. They've referenced a community center and the need for dedicated millage funding. It's not a new conversation, but it is certainly time to ask the residents. See where they want to, what they want to prioritize, where they live. Their surveys are 3 advisory boards under the Parks and Recreation Department, which is the Parks and Recreation Board, the Senior Advisory Board, and the Beautification Board, have all been in support in conversations of this millage. User feedback consistently shows support as well for expanded parks and recreation funding. As far as a community-wide benefit, something that we can look to both national standards and locally, are increased property values, environmental protection, mental health benefits, and economic stability. It is shown that when We have a strong Parks and Recreation department in your municipality. You have a strong community. Over 75% of voter approval for Parks and Recreation funding initiatives have been seen throughout the country. In recent years, the desire for strong recreation departments in local government have been proven to be viewed as a positive change. So, what will it cost? For a one mil Parks and Recreation millage for a 10-year time frame, it will come back to Chesterfield Township as revenue of $2.5 million annually. So as a resident, you can look at your home taxable value. That is different than your assessed value or what you sold your home for. But the taxable value of, if for instance, a $100,000 home would be paying an extra $100 per year or $8.33 per month. Here in Chesterfield, we do have a wide range of homes of their taxable value, but the average that we would see is a $100 to $140 increase annually. Doing the math on a full 10-year millage, if you were to go with 10 years, you can see that a 1 mil provides a $30 million return at the end of the 10 years and throughout. A 0.75 mil would be a $22.5 million, and a 0.5 mil will bring back $15 million. In most of this presentation, I've referred to 1 mil for 10 years, but it is certainly up to the board's discretion what you choose to do. Looking at our budget in Parks and Recreation, this is the 2026 budget projections. Operating cost of $2.29 million, anticipated revenue of $803,000, and then an annual operating cost of $1.49 million. It is not sustainable, and the general fund does not support fully, which can be addressed with a dedicated millage. One example of how the millage breakdown could be is that we save $500,000 to reduce the burden on the general fund and then use the remaining $2 million each year for projects, improvements, and programming expansion. It's definitely a capital and growth focused millage, so the majority would be in that direction so that we can grow and get better. The draft ballot language is listed here. It is the legal ballot language that will be on the ballot in front of voters, exactly as it appears in front of you. One addition that you'll see to this proposal this year is the addition of an amount not to exceed. So that falls just before whatever the millage amount will be or what the board chooses to do with it. This does allow the township board's discretion for future years to adjust the amount based on project plans to a lesser levied amount. That is for the board to decide at any time. As far as an election timeline, the August 4th, 2026 state primary is the next available election. The amount to add to the ballot, because it is an existing election already, is about $2,000 as estimated. Tax collections, if approved in August, would begin in December of 2026 for tax collection. Hosting a local ballot question in a primary election puts a greater focus on local issues. And when we look comparatively at other ballots that we have had that are the same as this, voter turnout was between 25 and 30%. Currently on the winter taxes, you'll see them listed here. These are the 2025 winter taxes. As you can notice that 0.7466 of the mills only went directly to Chesterfield Township. It's amazing when you look at your tax bill how much stays in the township versus goes out. But you'll notice that it's an even smaller amount specifically for Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services in our general budget. Many neighboring communities have a dedicated recreation millage. Some are significantly higher than ours. As you can see here, the communities that we're most often compared to, I've put up here for your comparison. Macomb Township and Sterling Heights do have significant millage rates that go directly to their Parks and Recreation departments. But here in Chesterfield Township, it is different in every community. What we generate out of 1 mil is $2.5 million. Our tax rates do fall in the middle of the road for our surrounding neighbors. Again, you can see the comparison in the box there. The difference in the school districts are what you see in the variance. With the Parks and Recreation millage, the way it is worded and what voters would vote on is that we can spend money on anything that is improvements for parks, recreation, and senior services. This includes facilities, land acquisition. We would be able to use this money to be a grant match fund, so we could use this money to match the grant and then get the grant money on top of it, so doubling our amount. Renovation of facilities and operations for the department as well. What we plan to focus on for this millage are 3 areas: community center, parks and pathways, and enhancing current facilities and programs. So these are our main focuses of it. What residents can expect to see over the 10 years is a start in these specific categories. The community center, Connie Bowles Park, Pollard Park improvements, and then to highlight items that we've been working for years, leaving room in the conversation for things that the community wants to see now. We'll have public visioning sessions where they can come and tell us exactly what they want to see on that conversation that we've been talking about: indoor walking track, gymnasiums, pocket parks, and trail system growth. Here's an example of a concept map for the community center. This would be adding an additional gymnasium in addition to the one we have now. It would also change the orientation of the building so that more parking would be available closer to the building, which is something that we hear more often than not. Another concept map for Connie Bowles Park. This is the one at 25 and Gratiot. It would include pickleball courts, a sledding park, playground, and dog park as well. An outdoor fitness loop would be closer to the Gratiot side of the park. And then, as I mentioned, pocket parks could be a possibility as well. This one I would certainly want to hear from the residents of the local communities because it's more walkable parks. It's not something that would be a driven park, not with a large parking lot, but something that would benefit the local neighborhoods. As for what's next, the community can expect that we will be asking for their input. We will be having visioning sessions to help guide millage priority spending, and it will lead us into allow residents to voice their opinion on all areas of our planning. I do not want to leave anyone with the impression that if you vote in August, you will have anything in December other than a bill. This will be a phased approach. It will be 10 years of planning if you choose to go with 10 years as a board. This could be what the first 5 years would look like. There are some items that we can get started right away. Others would take several years to add to and make it a full project funded. In the last 5 years, and as you can see throughout, we would continue to ask for public input and continue to use that input to guide us in the additional items that we choose. Something like the Pollard Park, for instance, might not start until year 9 of this millage. So it is, like I said, a long-term phased approach all the way through 2035 if you choose the 10-year. As far as the community, they can expect to be well-informed. We will keep our website, social media, and direct outreach up to date. If there's any communities that want to bring conversation to their community groups or have questions, they can reach out directly. Like I said, we will keep our website as up to date as possible, as well as our Facebook page. Chesterfield Township has built something that residents want to see get better and better. The millage is about sustaining, improving, and expanding something our community already relies on every day. We're good today, and with this support, we can be great tomorrow. It's the Chesterfield Township Board's decision to employ the best numbers, the mills, the length of time, and which ballot it goes on as well. But the agenda item in front of you is to create an opportunity for Chesterfield residents to voice their opinion on parks recreation here in Chesterfield Township. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll bring it back up to the board for discussion and conversation. Trustee Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. One great presentation. I think the presentation when this first came to the board and was ultimately rejected by the board was rejected in large part because the timing of the election required a standalone consideration of this agenda item. It wasn't part of any other election. This resolves that issue. If you recall, Clerk Berry presented some cost expectations associated with a special election or an election that didn't include, a midterm election, and the board opted to wait until there was consideration of this millage being part of other items on a ballot. The other criticism or constructive feedback that I heard was there wasn't enough specificity with regard to what will the residents get. And that's a tricky one because the need is great in terms of what we know about the community center and what we anticipate needing to pour into the building from an infrastructure standpoint. If you laid out and you told the voters, we're asking for a mill, and this is very specific on what we will spend your money on, you run the risk of being disloyal to what you said in the event that an emergency happens at the community center. If the AC goes out and the building isn't operational in the middle of the summer, do you say, well, we told the voters that we were going to put the first year towards this, and you don't want to limit, but I think is the 1 mil for 10 years and the money that generates, thanks to our assessing department and the analyzation of that, puts us in a place where we can do both. We can improve the quality and the infrastructure in the community center and expand programming in a way that our residents have been clamoring for and really, frankly deserve. We heard from a number of our groups, and at our planning commission meetings and our senior meetings, we've had feedback, participants who come forward and they weigh in. And I think as we move, hopefully this board approves this, and as we move closer to the August deadline, that we take note of residents and people who are engaged in our community who maybe have some concerns about this millage, because when we listen to those concerns, we're in a better position to make the outcome even stronger, because some of these concerns are legitimate and they're valid and they are designed to provide constructive feedback specifically. And I'll give you an example. At our Parks and Rec meeting in January, an individual came to the public hearing. We typically don't get along. We typically don't see eye to eye on a number of issues. But Mr. Locke came forward and he talked about his history with this township and that he has raised his children and was a very, very big proponent of our park system. And while he had some reservations about some of the elements of this millage, his concerns specifically kind of centered around, I think, two, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he felt that there was a disproportionate amount of resources being poured into Brandenburg, and felt that a millage on the whole could benefit a number of our other park spaces. And so his argument, it was hard for me because I was anticipating, always being at war. But when I just slowed down and I listened, I kind of understood where he was going, and he made sense. Like the sum of his concerns that were valid, and we strengthen more support for the millage when we address constructive criticism. Unfortunately, there are not so constructive criticisms of park millage, and I don't know what to do, Mr. Supervisor. You motivate people. There's a guy that comes forward with a list. He shows up at meetings. He just has contempt for you. So maybe, Ms. Vanderson, if you want support, you just get Supervisor Kersten to say, I'm against this millage, and that same guy will come forward and he'll go to this committee. Yeah. You could invoke a sign-making session where they go, support the millage, So it's clear that there are just personal differences. And I say this not only to our board members, but also the seniors who are in attendance, and the Parks and Rec Commission people, and the people with small children, and the people who think that we should have a community that takes care of our seniors and our children and provide them with, and all of our children, you know, like we could do so much more with adaptive playground equipment in multiple sites and not just wait for a grant to put in a few, you know, swing set type modifications, but really take a look at community space that provides for all of our children. So this millage affords us the ability to do some of those things, but when opposition comes forward, and well, even tonight, you have opposition that comes forward that says, look, I moved into this community because it promised a very low tax base, and I like the, you know, sort of Spirit Airlines approach. I get a seat. I'm interested in the peanuts or the in-flight meal, or I travel light. I get that part to an extent, but to then like expound on it, this person is like opposed to everything. She doesn't like dog parks. She doesn't like old people. She doesn't like take your kids and do something else with them, because I'm not paying for that. It is, I don't remember the character's name, but she came for Dorothy's dog in the beginning of the movie, and she had the same kind of vibe, which is who's opposed to dogs and seniors and and snow cones. By the way, she joins the list with Speaker. No snow cones for her. I don't care what event I'm at, no matter how much your staff pressures me, I'm not giving her a snow cone. That's just final, and I'm sorry, but that's it. I joke, but our seniors know this when you're out talking to people. I don't know of a group that's more concerned about your budget than seniors. A number of them are on fixed incomes, and there's a frugalness attached to that, but even in that community, the need for expanded park services and services to take care of our seniors in this community is way past due. And, you know, just in closing, I was in complete disagreement with the timeline and a number of the things that went into the decision to purchase the community center. I felt we should have gone for the millage first. That ship sailed. That is, you know, water under the bridge. The supervisor laid out a plan, his vision. It is involving a robust park system, the connectivity of our parks through pathways, and making our community more walkable. We just disagreed on the timeline. He laid out his vision and then was up for re-election, and the voters returned him to the supervisor's seat in overwhelming fashion. To continue an argument that started before the voters weighed in, I think is not consistent with what I'm supposed to be doing, and that's looking for common areas where we can agree. I respect that people may see it differently, and maybe this doesn't get unanimous support, but ultimately, the voters must decide what they're willing to pay for, and that's all that this agenda item tonight does, is that it says that the voters will decide. You don't have to be, you can vote for this agenda item and then go to the August ballot box and vote it against it, but this says that the voters will get to decide what monies they want to put towards Parks and Rec, and I'm very proud of our Parks and Rec department for the very thorough job that you did in listening to the board, the last presentation, and in the presentation tonight. It's overdue, and I enthusiastically support this agenda item tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If there are comments from, questions from the board, Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, there is. There's a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by myself.
If for the language that's on the agenda.
Yes, for the
All right,
language.
I have a technical question for the, I think for council. First of all, I do support putting this on the ballot and letting the voters decide, let our residents decide what they want to do. If we pass it the way it's written now, it says an amount not to exceed 1 mil levy. How is that amount, when and how is that amount determined each year?
It's determined annually during your budgeting process.
Okay, thank you.
Along with the term, correct? Or is it the terms included in this, in the motion? That's just 10
The
years.
the year term is included in the motion, but the amount is up to 1
subject.
mil, which means on an annual basis, you can decide, do we need the entire 1 mil or do we need less?
Understood. Trustee Anderson.
Okay, first thing, I do support our parks and recs, and I do support our senior citizens. I wish we could go back to 2019 before the senior citizens were commingled with parks and rec. You had a former director, Carol Rose, who was militant on protecting what was due our senior citizens. It was a separate entity. We had a very good parks and recs. I know that we're having this meeting here tonight, and I respected what everybody said. I'm not going to talk about anybody by name or their positions, but I'm going to go back a little quick history here. There was a strong opposition to purchasing the Sugar Bush Elementary and making it a community center. A lot of massive repairs were discussed and major upgrades as well. However, the board majority elected to use your ARPA money, whatever, to make that purchase. As it is tonight, it's the exact same proposal that came up in May 13th, 2025 agenda. Almost the same thing, except the amount of money might be 100,000 more a year it'll generate. Back then, I believe that a park and rec millage would be the exclusive source of their operating budget. I did support letting our voters, stakeholders, whatever, make that decision. During a nice discussion, and it's on record if you want to go back and look at it, suddenly became that millage was paramount for the millions of dollars of upgrades of a 50-year-old school that would probably be needed. Monies from the general fund would still be needed to subsidize parks and rec. At that time, the board did reject the millage by a 5-2 vote. At our last meeting, by a 4-2 vote, the sitting board voted to purchase a mobile stage unit for $170,000 using marijuana allotment, after rejecting a similar purchase in the amount of $150,000 by an identical 5-2 vote on July 8th, 2025. It's interesting how things have changed. I would only hope that this board majority would consider how the stakeholders will finance their acquisitions, be they sewer installations, mothballed buildings, or the like. As of right now, I'm a no vote for this millage. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments, discussion? Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Amenities such as parks and recreational activities, senior citizen services, these are all important parts of a growing and thriving community, and I support all of them. What I am adamantly opposed to is the funding mechanism that's being proposed here. In addition to that, I would have been a yes vote if this were going to be placed on the November ballot. The reason for that is that even though I may personally strongly disagree with the item itself, I strongly support having our residents make the choice and giving them the ability to have their voices heard. We should never stifle that opportunity. But with that being said, as Trustee Joseph said, people should have a right to speak their piece and cast their vote on what they want, but it needs to be more than just 30%. We have an opportunity to have twice the amount of residents in Chesterfield What about their voices? There are some people, and I see it in elections all the time, and I have for 30 years, they only come out during general elections. No matter how much we try to get them to come out in a primary, we let them know there's going to be an election. They just don't feel like it's important because on a primary election, on a primary ballot, that's a nominating election. So in other words, you only have people who strongly identify with either the Republican Party or the Democrat Party coming out to select their candidates. For people who consider themselves independents, or consider themselves not a partisan, they aren't interested in that. They're only interested in general elections, and that's why we have double the turnout in November. I would like to see more input, more say from our residents, and give more opportunity, and we have that in a November election. It's probably going to be record turnout here because all of the statewide offices are up in November. There are some offices that will not show up on a on an August ballot that will be on the November ballot. That's another reason why we have more turnout. And I would be a yes vote to put this on a November ballot. I don't like it on the August ballot. I think it is too limited to the number of folks who would be participating. I'd like to see more participation. As far as my reasons for opposing the funding mechanism, I'll obviously be talking more about that in the coming months. But if this were in November, I'd be a yes vote, but being as that it's an August proposal, I'll be a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Treasurer Elliott.
Two questions that I didn't see on the, maybe I missed it, but was there any discussion on the Brandenburg Park entrance fees? Because I know that we've kind of discussed those along with this, going along with this. And I don't know where we're at on that. Is that?
Not included in anything for this millage. It would be a completely separate discussion for the board to decide.
Okay. Also, was a farmer's market, I know we've talked about that as well, was that considered in this discussion or not? As it was?
Yep, it was considered and added into that section of public input. So we do plan to have those public visioning sessions at least once a month between when the board decides and the ballot when it goes on. That way it gives plenty of time and opportunity to do so. That is one of the items that was brought up though, yes.
Okay. And then I'm not sure if this is really for you or maybe for the supervisor, but so I believe when we talked about this last time, we at that point we did talk about this being on the August ballot, and now with this language, the not to exceed language, just to ask. So if it were to pass in August, right, then we'd have to do that budget in order to get it to set the rate that we're going to, what mill we're going to set it at for that tax cycle. We'd have to get that budget conversation finished by November. Have you thought about that, or is there any explanation, or has there been any discussion along that?
The timing's not a concern for me. If it passes, we'll bring it to the board and we'll set the public hearings or the rate at board level. Timing for that, to me, is minor.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? I'll just a few words. This is an opportunity, whether it's in August or November. Some people have already said they're no on everything, so don't listen to that. And we have an opportunity to change the direction of the township. Past boards have kicked the can on not just this, but several issues that we're left dealing with. I appreciate your presentation. It's probably one of the best ones I've seen in my time here. It covers just about everything. It answers everything. We're not going to make everybody happy how we present this. I am fully supportive of this. I was supportive of it back in May when it came to the board. We have funding issues. We have plans. We have a goal, and you've done an excellent job with this presentation, and it is my hope that the board approves this tonight and moves forward with it in August. Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, I appreciate the starting of that, which is there will be people that are a no regardless. When we talked about it last board meeting, I was aware that there was no election that this would require a special election. I was adamant that we shouldn't wait any longer, that we should incur the cost because we were spending a lot of money on that community center knowing that in order to make it a Parks and Rec facility, we would have to invest. I even challenged you, Treasurer Elliott, saying like, you've already spent the money. Get the feedback from the voters. So the no votes at the time were very similar to what we heard, at least from one of our board members. I would be a yes, but for, that's not true. I just, again, I don't want to get divisive here, but the August, as one very, very astute election watcher resident came to the podium and said, one, she took issue with the unvetted people at the, election site, but she said something within that which is very, very true, and anybody who's been watching elections for 30 years could corroborate, and that is you have a very, very informed electorate at the primaries. They typically know the issues, they don't miss elections, and the question of what the strategy is inconsequential to me. If the concern months ago was we don't want to pay for an election, we'll wait for a gubernatorial primary election is a pretty significant election with informed electors coming out. That satisfies the complaints and the I was a no but for. I don't believe it. There are people who just are no's, and they're going to be a no. They can say they support everything under the sun. I just can't support this millage for some obscure reason. They don't support it. That's okay. Go with what be intellectually honest. And when Trustee Anderson cites the reasons, he does have a heartfelt fundamental belief, and he did express concern about would the funds collected in a millage be the entirety of the Parks and Rec budget. And you're not a bait and switch kind of person, and it was your intention and to present a budget that would also include general fund contributions. I think that's wise because you don't know what the community center building will require. What we do know was with the concerns about the general fund and the state revenue sharing, I have grave concerns because in the history of budgets, you pointed it out, when the county doesn't run a Parks and Rec program. When budget constraints were met, it was Parks and Rec that was the first to get axed. So that left municipalities and townships and cities to figure out their own Parks and Rec. Without a dedicated Parks and Rec service, you can never, ever, ever say, well, why don't we do things like the Sterling Fest? And because their residents pay for that. And they pay in substantially greater proportion than 1 mil. I do agree with Trustee Anderson when the decision is made about general fund allocations, that is part of our budget process. And when we hopefully are in a position to deal with the revenue generated from 1 mil from a Parks and Rec, I don't think that we will need the general fund expenditures that we currently earmark for Parks and Rec. But I think it's fair to say that we may need some, and we can decide that at budget time. In terms of your concerns, Treasurer Elliott, with the ability to not exceed, if we are in a situation where we don't levy the full mill, I don't know of any municipality in the history of municipalities that levy less, but I would propose that we go into this, and if you want something in the language that says like year one, we are going to levy the full 1 mil. That's perfectly acceptable too, but I think putting language in there not to exceed gives us flexibility should we find I don't know, a big substantial grant that pays for a Parks and Rec expenditure, and maybe we don't want to levy, maybe we want to give. The other thing that I heard you mention, which I'm in full agreement with, I just thought timing-wise, we could deal with at subsequent meetings that weren't tied to the millage, and that is, I think a millage should do away with the Brandenburg gate fee. I think that it's long overdue, and the acquisition of the park, purchasing it from the state, which complicated, some non-resident, resident gate fees. But I think that a millage should generate sufficient revenue that we could wave goodbye to the nominal revenue that we generate at the gate on a park pass. And so I would wholeheartedly support a discontinuance of, but I think that would be something that I would be talking to residents about should the millage pass. I think that is, that should go hand in glove with that, an expectation that there are no gate fees at Brandenburg if the residents are paying $1 mil to open that park. And then the other thing that you mentioned, which is also sort of something that we could take up, was the interest in the farmers market and the utilization of Parks and Rec to offer a farmers market at our beautiful Brandenburg Park. I talked to Ms. Vanderson about that. It's something that came up at our Parks and Rec Commission meeting, and I was also concerned because I had heard from residents who are vendors or farmers market, customers, I guess, or visitors to New Baltimore. And so I called to learn a little bit more about the New Baltimore farmers market, and I'm sure that you already know this. It is wholly supported by the New Baltimore City Council, but the farmers market is a separate board, and they run all things logistics associated with the market, and there are benefits and there are also problems. And one of the problems that they're experiencing now is, as an independent organization, they must go to their city council and request permits for market days. We wouldn't have that if we were running it, but we would also incur a tremendous amount of outlay of Parks and Rec staff to, set up the market, oversee the market, schedule, and there is a tremendous amount of planning that goes in. They have paid members of their farmers market committee, and just as a side note, their board received the applications for permitting, and so anybody who is out there interested in being a vendor, they will open their vendor applications up as soon as they secure the parks. And they're looking to expand their market, second Sunday events, incorporating their Parks and Rec department with events on Main Street and concerts and things at Walter and Mary Burke Park, in addition to run concurrent with their market. So it is something that we could consider and should consider, especially if we have the operating capital that this millage potentially brings in. But it is another enhancement to the ability of our residents to utilize, parks, and great ideas. But definitely doing away with the gate fees should this millage pass. And Mr. Supervisor, you're 100% right. There are people that are just going to be a no, and they'll keep moving the shell and give alternate reasons as to why. But Trustee Anderson, I do still love you, and I respect your position. It hasn't changed, and you have valid points. I do love you, just in a different way.
Just a quick comment.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Just because, so we talked about how important it is to listen to our residents. We should start by listening to each other here. Gentlemen, let me just clarify this. I am a 100% no on the millage, no matter when it comes. You are completely correct, and that's what I said. And if those of you want to know why, I will show you with numerous examples, and we can take time and talk about it, the number of communities that have gone down the road that Chesterfield is going down, and it ends disastrously.
I'm asking for that meeting and list.
Okay, so,
be in my
sir,
office tomorrow.
I'm not speaking with you, just a minute, but I did not say I was a yes at this and a no at this. What I said is I'm a yes on this item to put it in front of the voters in a general election. In 30 years, I have never been in favor of a millage or a proposal on an August primary because I understand the dynamics of it. So this is no different than my position I've had for 30 years. As you pointed out, I have never supported a proposal on an August ballot. I've always believed they belong on November ballots only, so that's nothing new. Would I have voted yes tonight if this was November? Yes, even though I 100% disagree with it, that's true. But I 100% agree that the residents should have a voice and we should never prevent them from having one. So just wanted to clarify that. Nobody has to guess what I meant or anything like that. Just wanted to clarify that for anyone with questions. And yeah, would be happy to have conversations so long as I don't get a not interested or we're not equal answer. Thank you.
Let me offer this. Just email me the list of communities that failed. We will settle there, and I'll expect it tomorrow in the email since it's readily available to you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just a quick conversation about the gate fees at Brandenburg Park. That is a topic that needs to be addressed, and we planned on looking at it this year with the gate that's been installed. And that's a discussion that needs to be had. Unfortunately, it has to be addressed by the board. So we've begun to look at that and come up with ideas of how that looks, what that fee looks like, and who should be allowed in. But again, I'd like to separate that from this proposal. That is a topic, it's a legitimate topic, but again, this opportunity tonight in front of us is I'm more than supportive of. Any further discussions on the board? I have a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve item 10H as described in the agenda item. If you would all please cast your votes. The results will appear once all votes are cast. Five two, passes 5-2. Item 10I.
Item 10I is to approve the Elections Department recommendation to adopt resolution number 2026-04, election inspector wage restructuring commencing with the 2026 election cycle to realize cost savings and align township compensation with that of neighboring communities.
Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion to approve item I as presented.
Motion by Clerk Berry. Is there any support? Support. Trustee Anderson?
Good evening.
Mason?
Trustee Joseph, I'd like to begin. I hope I'm still on the snow cone list. Yes. This item before you for consideration tonight is simply a measure for us to better align our inspector compensation. Inside the agenda packet, you'll see there's a cost comparison with other sized municipalities here in Macomb. Almost 2 years ago at this point, the clerk had brought an item converting to the hourly wages with the information at the time that there was going to be an abundance of funding to reimburse workers. That was the case for early voting, so we are proposing a hybrid structure. We are going to revert to a per diem for election day, which will realize cost savings. There's a forecasted savings table in there. If you look, table 4 there has listed out 3 elections. This was prepared before May would have been called for the deadline, so the adjustments here will net about $14,000 in savings. For early voting, we still have allocation from the legislature to reimburse wages at $15 per hour. So if you look at the table there, the township will have to front the money as we always do. So our cost for the August early voting period is $82.08, respectively for November as well. When we adjust for the state reimbursement amount, we're coming out of pocket, and the amount of $1,720. I'll keep it brief here. I don't want to beat the proverbial horse here, but I think I've spoken to most of you about this. Any questions?
Discussion from the board? Clerk Berry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just restate what Mason explained to everybody. This did come in front of the Election Commission. This is a recommendation from the Election Commission. We met and discussed this item. We are looking for every way possible to try to bring cost-saving measures forward. And this is one of those. The cost savings isn't as much as we would like to see, but we had to keep our rates high enough to retain our workers, but reduce it enough to realize at least some kind of substantial savings. And total savings amounts to about $10,000 by offering this hybrid structure. And was presented to the Election Commission, was unanimously recommended by the Election Commission to bring it to the board.
Trustee Anderson? Nothing? Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, one, Mason, I appreciate the email that you sent out asking for, any feedback or questions or concerns. I thought that the presentation, the packet was pretty thorough, and I didn't have any questions for you, but I just wanted to say that I did appreciate the opportunity to pick your brain on anything in this. So well done. And the comparison to neighboring communities, I think, puts us in a, we're not the top of the heap, but we're also in a competitive place to, secure the workers that are necessary. I do, just as a side note, and maybe I'll pop in on an Election Commission meeting and ask the questions there, but when we hear about like the increase proposals for, we hear a lot about grant money or money coming from the state for reimbursement, and then when we have election expenditures, I'm like stupefied by the cost associated. When we looked at, well, what does it cost us to hold this or hold that? We six-figure dollar amounts, and I never, there always seems to be a disconnect. Again, I'll come to an Election Commission meeting, and I'm going to grill you. I'm going to bring signs too, by the way, Mr. Anderson. And I'm going to bring signs that say, stop spending our money, and heckle you. But I do want to just maybe understand the process a little better. I did appreciate the packet and the thoroughness on this one, though, Mason. Thank you.
Any further comments, questions from the board? Mason, are we ever going to get back to 1 day in person, one vote?
God help us all, that would be ideal, but now we have 4 different menu varieties of how to vote. Not even to mention emergency absentee voting, which requires us to chauffeur ballots as well as curbside. So no, it just becomes more expansive, and again, we're trying to solicit the votes of everyone, so that is a democratic process. But yeah, if Adam can help in Lansing, that would be appreciated.
Thank you. I have a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Anderson, to approve item 10I. If you would please cast your vote, results will appear. Passes 7-0. Item 10J.
Item 10J is approval of resolution number 2026-08, codifying the Chesterfield Township Municipal Offices as the designated early voting precinct for the 2026 election cycle and ongoing in accordance with MCL 168.662.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Vosberg. Again, Mason.
Yep, so this item is before the board tonight for consideration. There was internal discussions amongst the executives on how to better situate early voting and use township resources. The consensus was to bring it back to the municipal offices here. Ms. Ross, and the experience that you had at the early voting site, I do apologize. And I know this comes to you at an expense of your family. That was not the intended. But getting to the nuts and bolts here, to realize this cost, we do have to go through the noticing requirements. So if you look at the second table here, there's a variable cost for August. If brought back to the municipal complex, these are the costs we can expect. The precinct map updates, that was based on the last invoice from Giffords. I received an email here at about 6 o'clock stating that the changes are going to be significantly less, roughly about $300. So when we adjust for that, we're looking at about $8,700. But that's the cost. And again, it's a one-time outlay. We will maintain it here. And again, we'll coordinate with the resources that we have to plan accordingly. One consideration that we have spoken to the supervisor about, as well as the treasurer, early voting hours run concurrent with the township's hours of operation, so we'll have to be mindful of traffic to make sure individuals can transact business at the counter, as well as chauffeuring them down into the senior wing to cast their ballots. And then there's a sample notice as well. You'll see it's very sanitized. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Questions from the board? I have a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10J. If you would please cast your vote. Results will appear. Item passes 7-0. Thank you, sir. Item 11, addendums. There are no addendums. Item 12, public comments. There's a 3-minute time limit. If you would, please state your name, not required, just so we can keep track. Public mic is open.
Christopher Perrick, Embassy Street. So I'm just wondering if there's any support I can get from the township in regards to priority waste. They damaged one of my bins. I did fill out a form on the township website. I reached out to them by phone. They told me to fill out, submit something through their website, which I did, and I got a response right away saying that they'd get back with me the next day, and that was 2 months ago yesterday. And so I've reached out to them a few times. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that the township can do to help support me in that manner. The other thing is the last meeting, I came late, but I couldn't get in the building. The doors were locked. Is there a protocol to lock these doors at a certain time? And if that's the case, then what is the break, the time break for showing up for this? And then I had another thing. I got about a minute to figure it out. Yeah, it does. All right. Well, I guess it wasn't that important. Thank you.
Karen's got your number. We'll make a call tomorrow for you. You're on the. They're a challenge for us too.
I just like to let everybody know that's listening. The piece of paper I gave these people essentially laid out all the increases they've passed on you this year between the water, the bonds, the coverage for the assessor, and now the 1 million, or I put 1 million for Parks and Rec, should be 2.5 million. All of that this year adds about over 20% to your tax bill this year. I'm not against the Parks and Recs thing. I'm just against what they're doing here and how they should explain it and what they're doing. And obviously, by having it in August, have the election in August, they don't want to do that. And I'm sorry, Mr. Joseph, but, you know, you've been going around saying everything about me. I'm negative. I don't agree with anything. I've always been negative. I belong to this township. I've belonged here, lived here, probably almost as much as you are old. I'm 86 years old. I moved in here in my 30s. And it's just a little disgusting to have somebody that I elected come out with the things that you say, like you did last night at the other board. And I'd also like to bring out that it's gone farther than that, if I could read it. Basically, you answered, I put a comment to Mr. Lucido when he put out about how a person gets prosecuted, how to make the claim. Somebody in there said, well, what happens if I can't get the police to take a claim? And basically there was nothing back at it. And I added that basically I run into the same problem. And it might help if he looked at the claim and then looked at it and said, Mr. Police Officer, you go out and investigate this and bring it back to my office. And your response to that, which had nothing to do with anything here, was I'm familiar with Mr. Kadich, and I can tell you firsthand, he's not concerned with things like politics rooted in law, policies rooted in law. Your attempt to educate him with law will not adjust his reality. Trust me, I say this as somebody with Mr. Kadich's experiences. You can spend considerable time trying to politely and sincerely explain to him, but you can never it will never comprehend to him. Repeated attempts to make him,
James Clark, Chesterfield Township. I guess this is the old people's hour. Don't get the idea that you understand me or, you know, we're buddy-buddy over this Parks and Rec deal. Far from it, far from it. I do think the kids deserve something, but not the way you people are giving it to them. You're not giving the kids shit. You're not giving them anything. You're taking the money for his rec center, his civic center. That's all you're doing. The kids are going to be shortchanged. There's $2.5 million a year, $30 million, $10 million of it's to fix the center, air conditioning and electrical and everything else you want. And on top of it, you want to build another auditorium or gymnasium, a 30-year-old or a 50-year-old, pardon me, not 30, 50-year-old school building. Yeah, that's the wrong, you're doing it, you know, it's like everything you've done, and this is my 3 minutes, all right? Everything you've done since you've been in that chair, it's been ass backwards. Oh, hey, we got this idea. Let's run with this idea. We're going to buy this. We're going to do that. Oh, how in the hell am I going to pay for it now? Oh, shit, now we got to scramble around and figure out how we're going to pay for things. Everything you've done, every one of your projects, the sidewalks, the pathway, everything you've done it ass backwards. You read through there, and now all you are forced to vote to spend money for his ideas. You know, he has no concept of how to lead. All he knows how to do is spend money. And Mr. Joseph here, he's the next wannabe for that seat. It's obvious, the way he flip-flops on everything around here. He's the next person for that seat, because he's due to go. People had enough. When they start seeing their tax bill and that and start realizing over the next couple of years before the next election, who's raised their taxes so bad that they're hurting, you're out. And you're going to be right there to fill the spot. Mr. I'm behind everybody. Anybody got a cause? I'm the man for your cause. You know, you guys have a tendency to criticize every one of us. All we want you to do is the right thing for this township. Back off on the spending. Yeah, things need to be bought, things need to be done. But hey, quit increasing our taxes. Quit increasing what it's costing us to live here.
Any more comments from the public? I'll bring it back. I had to goat you into it.
don't have to worry too much. The only other thing I'd like to say is about waiving the fees to get into the park. Are you referring to, and this is a question, I don't know if I'll get an answer, but are you referring to just residents or everybody? Oh, okay, then I'm in favor of waiving it for residents, but I would be opposed to waiving it for everybody. The guy from Dearborn, Sterling Heights, wherever. Okay, so we're on the same page. Thank you very much. Sorry, I was a little asleep tonight. I've been sick a little lately, so.
Start with trustee Anderson. 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Reminds me of a class I took in speech in college. You had to select a topic and throw it in a hat, and one of your class members had to randomly grab something, and they had about a minute and a half to prepare a 2-minute speech. And I met this young man, he picked boats. He admitted, I don't know the first damn thing about boats. He says, big boats, little boats, 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 boats. He made the 2 minutes repeating that, but I just want to say tonight is got a little rocky here, and Saturday's Valentine's Day, so don't forget that sugar high for your special person or the flowers. Stay warm.
Trustee Joseph.
Thank you. The difficulty with trying to answer people's questions, 6 people get up and they ask questions, and I do try to answer them. Occasionally I go over the 3 minutes, but I don't know how to answer your questions without, trying to answer your questions. I apologize for any kindness that I may have shown you tonight in terms of pointing out that you brought up some decent points at the Parks and Rec Commission meeting last week. Whatever kindness that you feel I erroneously extended to you, if you could deliver them to Mr. Kadich, who is on the conversely upset that I'm not polite to him. I don't know, how to address legitimate concerns. I thought that you raised a few. I pointed that out tonight. Again, not trying to imply that we are buddy-buddy or we're not going to share Valentine's on Saturday. So I recognized what I thought was common area. That's what I tried to do. I would gladly read the response. It's indicative of what I've come to know about the core of the complaints. They're personal, they're nasty, and they're formulated on erroneous numbers. The sheet that you provided to the board tonight is riddled with inaccuracies, yet you proceed as if they're fact, and everybody knows them. Everybody knows that you've added, and then you create 20% increases, and this board doesn't have the capability of raising property tax. We don't have an impact over home values and the rise of home values. Those are state set. So when you keep coming forward and talking about raising of taxes, we can't. And the repeating, if you repeat it enough, it becomes fact. It's not true. We didn't raise 1 mil on the administrative fee, and we didn't raise it to protect the supervisor's taxation of certain people. That is your money, and if you were listening with an open mind, you would have heard that the big box stores that have recently challenged our assessor's opinion could cost the township across the board, all the money that comes into the township that's utilized by all of the residents, that will cost you money. That is your money. And if we didn't put a strong defense, which requires the acquisition of law firms that specialize in that area, we would potentially lose that revenue and create a shortage in the revenue stream. So we got a full presentation, and we looked to secure the legal response to protect that. That wasn't a supervisor's decision to protect the taxes that he put. You characterize things improperly, and then you seem to take great. I really don't understand how to try to address.
Enough. Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, I'll just, well,
Mr. Kadich, enough. Nobody interrupted you. No, nobody interrupted you. Please stop. Please stop. I'm warning you. Please stop. Thank you. Well said. Well said.
Mr. Perrick, your comments tonight, I appreciate the pointing out of the discrepancy in the agenda item. The other thing that you talked about was priority waste and the damage to your can. I don't know if you've recently, Macomb Daily and Cranes is reporting something that the supervisor assembled a QBS team to look at our priority waste contracts ahead of the expiration, because we are concerned about the need midstream to bring in another vendor for a multitude of reasons, but one of which customer service is, we have a inundate with concerns about the damage to cans, missed pickups, you name it. The track record is, and now they have substantial management issues, and we may be in a position, we'll talk about it more, but the process that was planning to be like over the course of the next year resulted in some emergency meetings to expedite an RFQ process to look at vendors who may be able to accommodate us for a long term, but also in an emergency situation. So just keep that in mind as we're trying to get relief for the can. And I know that it's unfortunate and frustrating, but we're struggling. Last thing I want to say is the us. You know, I thought we were all us. You know, there can be differences of opinions, but personal attacks that just keep coming and keep coming. You give it is far greater than you get it, and this idea that I don't know the complaint about the sign tonight, but we have a lot of technology in this room, and not all of it is utilized for every meeting. This monitor could play a different role for planning commission meetings or other meetings that take place in this space. But I think the two 10-foot screens are sufficient to accommodate almost every angle. I don't know why somebody who's like 15 feet from a 10-foot sign can't see it and needs the TV, but it's indicative of indicative of complaints. I don't care about the signs. I know you hate them. I just find them to be disruptive when our staff are sitting in the front row and somebody's giggling behind them and jamming a sign. I watched Mr. Sonnenberg politely say, I don't need a sign, and then the tee-hees and she literally, you know, pushes it into his face. That's harassment. That's harassment. And signs that read, stop unnecessary spending. I know that she left, but I know that she watches as well. Unnecessary is UNNECESSARY. And sometimes spending is necessary, and I would encourage the maker of that sign to maybe apply necessary spending on things like, well, the library millage. It could have given like a lot of insight and help in the production of that sign, and I think it serves as a necessary spending, at least in her case, as it relates to the library. Thank you.
Trustee Harbert. Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. One of the previous speakers under public comments had mentioned that our taxes had gone up. I just want to point out that the facts that fees have risen is true. But the tax rate itself has not gone up. But our taxes go up because the assessed value, or the taxable values do rise. So there's element of truth just wasn't stated in a way that is accurate. The other thing is, if you go to Chesterfield Township, chesterfieldtwp.org, our website, right on the front page is a survey that's being taken for Parks and Recreation. I would encourage everybody to go to that and make your comments regarding our Parks and Rec program. Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott. Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I pray every day that we all start to treat each other with more respect and a little more kindness as well. Hopefully one day that will happen. As far as some of the suggestions that I have for alternate funding, things that 30 years in policy making, I plan to make those public. So all the members of the board as well as members of the public will see some of the alternate options. And also I will give you case studies as well of communities that have taken similar paths that we are on and just see where they've ended up. Some of them, if you want to start doing your own research on that, eCourse, Flint, Benton Harbor, they all follow the same pattern. So it's not anything that I make up. It's just something that I've known for years. I was a active participant in the Michigan Taxpayers Alliance for many years. The founder of that was a mentor of mine. And so when I worked in Lansing as his chief of staff, I did a lot of research on taxing structures and what the cause and effects are of successful and unsuccessful communities and how different funding options are possible. It tends to be, some people have a tax and spend philosophy. What concerns me is I've seen that we seem to have a spend, 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 and then send taxpayers the bill philosophy. I don't think that's the right way to go. There are some people who do. I don't. I'm not suggesting anyone here thinks that way. I'm just saying that universally among policymakers, there are people on completely different sides of the spectrum. It's not that they don't want the same things, but they disagree on how to get there. And that's all it is. And it's a respectful disagreement. I plan to keep it respectful. I always will. I hope that in the future we can all do that with each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Respect is a two-way initiative. Goes both ways. We are not Flint and we are not Benton Harbor, and I'm not sure what pattern you are discussing. I sure would like to have that conversation. So, some updates from the supervisor's office. We had a very successful meeting with Senator Tell and MDOT here this past week. We have an open discussion on pedestrian crossings in Chesterfield over I-94, along with some funding opportunities that could impact our walkability through the township. Senator Tell was very motivated when he left here, and he was going to have further discussions with MDOT. That is not a next year plan. It's probably a 2 to 3 year out plan, but it is now at least on their radar thanks to Karen and her dogged attempts with MDOT. We also met with State Rep. Jada Boyer. He came in along with Commissioner Phil Kraft regarding our plans to clean the Salt River, fallen trees, obstructions throughout from the top of the township down to the bottom in the Salt River corridor. Also the Phragmite problem that not only we're confronted with, but a much broader spectrum throughout the region. We're looking with, working with Eagle and intend on having further conversations with them and exploring again any opportunities that they can provide to us. The small SISMA grant that we usually get, I think we had 7 residents that we were able to participate or at least clean up Phragmites in their area. Unfortunately, Phragmites is an invasive plant and it probably will return. As was mentioned earlier, we did receive approval for a United Way grant, roughly about $2.2 million. We're waiting for confirmation from that, which will fund our summer camp, and it also partners with Anchor Bay School and hopefully in the future, New Haven schools. We'll bring that presentation back in front of the board. We hope to do it at the next board meeting, or if not, the follow-up, again, working with the United Way. And I have to give the Southeast Michigan Chamber, John Johnson, kudos and recognition. He's the one that called us and said, hey, I think you guys need to look at this. This could be an opportunity. We were successfully rewarded that, and I hope to have that presentation in front of the board here at the next meeting. Partnering with the Woodhill Group, again, we're continuing to improve and draft our draft policies and update our existing policies and procedures to remain current and effective. And that, unfortunately, Mr. Adair couldn't make it tonight. He had a family emergency, so we'll move that back. I've spoken briefly about SMART and funding. We have made significant progress, and unfortunately, it will go to the county commissioners for approval on the SMART funding, which is throughout the county. What we've done with them, with the leadership at SMART, is they used to pay us in credits, and the credits were always there was a vagueness about what that amount was. We are a donor community to SMART. We've spent, our millage raises about $2.2 million, and then it all goes to the SMART leadership, SMART funding. Our goal here is to return it back to us in some larger proportion. Have agreed that we're sitting at about 12% right now, and again, that's going to be at the county level. My hope is we'll have some movement on that in the coming months. As of yesterday, you may have noticed, the Macomb County Drain Office has begun their phase 1 cleaning of the east branch of the Fish Creek, which runs from the north part of the township, almost right down through the heart of the township, underneath I-94, along 24 Mile Road, and all the way down 23 Mile Road. They're currently mowing and cleaning out debris within that east branch of the Fish Creek, and that continues from the partnership that we made with the Drain Commissioner some time ago. We have instituted some grant funding training for our employees here. We have 4 employees that have been trained in grant funding. We continue to reach out on every level of grant funding that comes through, and we've expanded our tracking systems and capabilities within the BSA module. And just a brief comment. I don't have the official acknowledgement yet, but working with Congresswoman Lisa McLean's office, we may have a successful award here in the coming months. Again, directed mainly at infrastructure throughout the township. Priority Waste, we've seen what's going on at Priority Waste. I've had several phone calls with them, and actually they are coming to the township. Their new leadership is coming. Their reassurance is that they are on schedule. They're still operating. They've acknowledged that they've got some issues administratively inside, so maybe we'll be able to work with, I'll have Karen reach out to them and see if we can't accommodate you. As was also stated by Trustee Joseph, our QBS team for a replacement vendor is also up and running. We've expedited that process, and we'll see what that brings us. What I want everybody to understand is our garbage pickup, as it is framed with us today, any new vendor that comes in here, it is not going to be what you're getting today. You are looking at potentially card only. You are looking at individual payments for bulk pickup. The whole operation is subject to change and probably will change. And then in the back of the panel I posted out tonight, and I've had some preliminary discussions with board members. GLWA raised their rates. They're going to raise their rates. Their proposed rates are already out. They've already came out with what they're doing in 2027. Our hands are tied, and I've had several conversations with residents about what are we going to do? How can we stop this? We need to attend meetings. We do attend GLWA meetings. We are represented there. Unfortunately, our options are very limited. We either look at a water cistern retention system in the township and manage, which is expensive, the commodity flow or our usage, as other communities have done, or we look at building our own water system. Both are extremely expensive options and alternatives. So we are in. But as I said, I've had some conversations with some trustees and elected officials here, and that is something whether that we need to have a discussion on and at least get a committee together to see which direction we go. Again, our options are very limited. And with that being said, what was Mr. Kadich enough has said, your numbers are all wrong. And with that, I'll close with Supervisor make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Clerk Berry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.